You could have put a donkey up here with a red rosette and it would have won the election.
None of those were in the manifesto and all have gone down like a cup of sick.
He's taken more positions than the Kama Sutra, Harry.
Hello, welcome to Never Mind the Ballots. I'm Harry Cole, the political editor of The Sun. For now, joining me today is newly elected Reform councillor Darren Grimes, and in the studio, Guido Fawkes journalist Ellie Wheatley and former Labour advisor Matthew Talbot. Councillor Grimes, I'm going to come to you first, all the way from sunny Durham. Congratulations. Bit of an earthquake up there, right?
Thank you very much. Yes, it absolutely was. I call it a blue tidal wave. Well, a turquoise tidal wave, Harry. And that's exactly what we've seen in no fewer than 10 councils, 677 seats. No one predicted that, not even Harry Cole.
Have you? Well, I don't know. I was pretty punching it. Have you started your new job? Have you been elected leader yet? Have they showed you where the unisex loos are and the likes?
I have my induction tomorrow, at which I will be refusing my DEI training, yeah.
On what grounds? Surely it's all sensible stuff, right? You love all that.
Oh, no, I absolutely hate anti-white racism, Harry. I've always stood against racism.
Is that a big issue in? Is that a big issue in Durham?
Anti-white racism, you betcha. Kids need opportunities in this part of the world.
Matthew Talbot, Labour got absolute spanking last week, 10 months into a new government, and it looks like the public have said, keep the change.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. I think the party have made several unforced errors, particularly, you know, a couple of weeks in saying it's going to get worse before it gets better. People voted for what
when's it going to get
change.
better, though? I mean, we've had 10 months and it seems it's as fast as caused the last lot.
Yeah, no, listen, the party have made their own errors. I would say, however, without being a sort of party apparatchik...
Are you a party apparatchik? Are you a loyal stormtrooper?
No, I am a critical friend and I expect better of all my friends and family. But I think there were many traps left after 14 years. We can't discount that. However, I think we could have made better political decisions. The four most unpopular decisions the party have made were not in the manifesto, and therefore they don't really.
So, what are you thinking? Winter fuel payments, putting up national insurance. What else do you?
The welfare reforms that are to come, and also the closure of the loophole on the inheritance tax for farmers. I think none of those were in the manifesto, and all have gone down like a cup of sick.
To Starmer got time to turn it around. What would you like to see? Some personnel changes, a cabinet reshuffle, a change of message, a bit more vim.
I think economic security is the main thing. I think if you look at any government...
Hard one to sell, though, isn't it? I mean, it's just even it sounds.
I don't know, if people feel better in their pockets, they feel about things as a whole. I think I'd be wary of massively changing right and aiming to mirror reform on immigration because people vote for differences and you can't out-reform, as Darren will no doubt well know. I think what you probably should do is you need to be looking at the 1951 Convention on Asylum Seekers and ensuring... Yeah, well, because at the moment, the only way you can try and claim asylum in any country is to be in that country. So I think you can stop the optics of people crossing the boats as well as actually dealing with the economic migrants on the coattails of people potentially seeking asylum by looking at offshore processing. Can we have people applying for asylum in embassies, British embassies in their country? Can we have checkpoints?
Surely that's going to be a pull factor. If you're allowing people to apply for asylum before they even get here, you're gonna have people queuing up around the block to come here.
Which is fine.
More than they already do.
It doesn't mean they have to be accepted, but ultimately we know who these people are. It's a national security issue to have people throwing their passports and identification in the channel in the first place. So I think you win on that. People in this country want to feel secure, but also it's the optics of people turning on their TV every day and more people are coming across. Is
Keir Starmer, Mr. Human Rights himself, you know, talks sort of often fondly of his, you know, long career on the international court stage. Is he really the man to be ripping up or walking away from international agreements like that?
I think it's something he has to look at, and ultimately, whether it be now or next year, I think the pressure is already on. I've always thought, not to deflect from any of the results last week, but these weren't the big ones for Labour. I think next year will be the big ones because ultimately it's Scotland and Wales. It is a true mid-term election. And if Labour lose in Scotland and Wales as expected, I think that's where you're going to have a Joe Biden-like conversation with Keir Starmer.
Joe Biden-like conversation?
Thank you for helping us, Keir, but now is the time to go.
You really think that they could be replacing Keir Starmer in a year's time?
I've always thought that. I've always thought that because I think the high tide mark was us winning the election. It was only going to go up and down from there.
Darren Grimes, you're wincing through half of that. Do you think it's a good idea to allow asylum seekers to ask to come from a different country without even making it here?
I do have to pull Matthew up on that not being a big one, as in last week not being a big one. Harry, as you well know, the Labour Party had control of County Durham for 100 years. You could have put a donkey up here with a red rosette and it would have won the election. Tony Blair's seat was here. His seat went overwhelmingly to Reform. If this wasn't a tidal wave, I don't know what is. And if this isn't a wake-up call, I don't know what it will be required for them to have a wake-up call. The Labour Party is now the party of religious sectarianism, of metropolitans in cities and of students. It is not the party of the working class in parts of the world like this. And I had a family come up to me the week before the election, say that they had a family of 7 move in next door in a HMO, which is a home with multiple occupancies. Why on earth should a family have to endure the lack of security and certainty for their children with a group of 7 fighting-age men moving next door who likely don't share our views, values and culture? I don't think there is anything bigoted about wanting some form of sanity around this issue. And if you think Sir Keir Starmer, as you say, Harry, human rights lawyer to the extreme, is going to actually U-turn on these policy positions, well, I've got a bridge I can sell you.
Darren, just quickly while we're talking about families, little birdie told me your mum got elected as well. Is that true?
It is true, yes. She wasn't expecting it. I
Was
think
she,
it's safe to
what,
say.
a paper candidate, not expecting to win, and is now sitting next to you at work?
Absolutely, but I promise you, she is committed as I am to delivering for the people of County Durham, so it's a good thing she was elected.
Very good. Ellie Wheatley, one thing that no one has mentioned so far is where are the Conservatives? Kemi Badenoch, possibly the only leader to have a worse night than the Labour Party. What's going on with the Tories? They, it seems to be going backwards rather than recovering from their election tonking last year.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was an absolute wipeout for the Tories and actually quite a fatal blow for Kemi Badenoch. And at the moment, there have been complaints and criticism about her not being strong enough on policies. So, for example, she slams Labour's jobs tax, but then refuses to commit to reversing it. And at the moment, there are some grumblings within the party about whether or not she should stay. I mean, they've been having meetings about it.
Do you think she's safe in her job, given that, 6 months in, she hasn't exactly made a huge impact? She seems to struggle somewhat at PMQs. She seems to rub a few people up the wrong way quite often. Yeah. Are Tories ready to do what they do very well, which is knife another leader?
Well, apparently they're having meetings about her position as leader this week. And last night she held a drinks party for jittery MPs, and about 25 of them only turned up. And apparently the Prosecco was flat and it wasn't exactly
Doesn't sound like a wild evening. Darren, what's going on with reform? I mean, obviously people are saying put them into power and there'll be a big test for them. They're going to have a record now to defend at future elections. They've gone from 5 MPs to 4 MPs, back to 5 now, but they do seem to have the remarkable ability in the past, people like around Nigel Farage, of getting to this point of breakthrough and then all falling out. Have the party grown up enough yet?
Yeah, I think so, actually. I've never known a group of activists. I've been in politics for 10 years, right? I've never known a group of activists more committed.
They all seem to be slagging each other off on Twitter all the time.
Well, I don't know about who you're talking about,
well,
but certainly
Rupert Lowe
and
his followers don't seem very happy about things.
Well, yeah, that's one man with a big social media presence that seems to be about me, instead of you, which is the national interest. I'm concerned with actually delivering for the people up here, and the activist space that I've will serve alongside of and have been surrounded by over the past couple of months have been totally committed to the party and its aims and objectives. Don't forget, Harry, we've just rendered, you were talking about Kemi Badenoch, we've just rendered the two-party system utterly it's broken, right? We have crushed it. The Conservatives are not a serious political force anymore. Who could have predicted that for the oldest party in Western democracy? We have a real unfrozen moment here to actually solidify our stance, our position into a real political opportunity for the country to choose at the next general election. We're going to have to prove ourselves on these 10 councils that have been won by Reform. I think we will do that because what I'm seeing is a group of people who are serious, who are committed and care about their community, their county and their country. So I'm excited. It's going to be difficult. Are we going to make mistakes, Harry? You betcha. But
we'll be there for those, don't you worry.
I can bet my bottom dollar you will be. But look, we are serious about it. And I think actually there will be an element of delivery very, very quickly indeed.
Ellie Wheatley, Reform have, seem to have upped their game somewhat. The problems that gripped the Brexit Party and UKIP before them was a lack of ground organisation, a lack of formal political party structures, fist fights and knocking each other out and falling out. Is Reform, have they got a grip on this thing? Do you think, from where you're sitting, do you think they are a mature political force that aren't going to blow this once-in-a-lifetime chance?
Well, they're certainly trying. I think they were absolutely shocked by the gains that they made in the locals. I remember speaking to a Reform source saying, I think you might even get 600. And they said, God, no, that's wide of the mark, and almost sort of hoping not too many councils, because it's a huge feat to, controlling councils and making sure that they avoid mismanagement that will be seized upon by the Tories and Labour will be difficult. I've also heard some grumblings within Reform HQ over Zia,
the party chairman,
party chairman Zia Youssef, which
big donor who became the chairman. Yeah.
Exactly, just because of management style. So we'll see how that plays out. There could be another blow up. Who knows? I think now that they've replaced their fifth MP, Rupert Lowe, with Sarah Pochin, they hope that they've nipped that whole drama in the bud. Nonetheless, Rupert Lowe is still making a lot of noise on X and on social media, and he does have the grassroots behind him. So whether or not that continues, we'll have to see.
Matthew Talbot, Labour, threw the absolute kitchen sink at Nigel Farage before the election. The eve of the local elections, they had Keir Starmer accusing him of being Putin's puppet from the dispatch box. They've been throwing around lots of claims that Reform want to privatise the NHS and the like. But millions of voters heard all that and still voted Reform. What are Labour going to do to take that fight to people like Darren Grimes and his mum, who are seemingly relatively sort of normal people who aren't necessarily your sort of identikit Westminster politicians? It's a very hard battle to fight.
I think what it ultimately shows is what I've always believed in, that a negative campaign never wins. You can call the other side as many names as you want. People want to know what you're going to do about things. And unfortunately for the Labour Party, they're in power. So it's up to them. I think ultimately, when people see a material difference in their lives, whether that be immigration, whether that be more money in their pockets, job security, whatever it might be, they'll feel better about the government of the day. And at the moment, they're failing on all three of those things, to Joe Bloggs down the road and Darren and his mum and whoever else. And I think you've got to sell a vision. You've got to sell what you're about.
But what is the vision? That's what I don't understand. I mean, it's all very well saying, it's a comms problem and they need to sell the narratives and tell a story. But what is the story? Isn't that the problem?
Well, the story is, I suppose, what do you want? And I suppose it's a dangerous question, potentially. If Labour have got themselves into a position where they are the status quo, and we are living in a period, both here and across the water in America, where people hate politicians, right? And I mean viscerally hate them. And you've got a job to either don't defend the status quo, for want of a better word. You need to reform what the establishment and the status quo means.
Good little name, that, isn't it?
Yes, quite. And I think ultimately Reform, Nigel and Darren and others represent a group of people at the moment who are fed up and are willing to gamble the very little they've got.
Aren't they traditional Labour voters that they're representing now? Labour's still the party of the working classes? I don't think they are.
I think ultimately, look at voting patterns, they aren't. And that saddens me as a paid-up member of the working class. It worries me, the fact that Maurice Glassman spoke yesterday of the lanyard class, which I thought was quite a good catch-all term, really. And I think we've forgotten who we are and who we're supposed to represent. And I think that's sort of Ed Miliband onwards, I would say.
You sound pretty gloomy about Labour's chances, then?
Name me a government that's managed to turn it round whilst in government. That's why I'm gloomy.
Well, Donald Trump came back, didn't he? Surely, is it time for Keir Starmer to be a bit more Donald?
Donald Trump didn't come back when in government. This is the problem. He went away, licked his wounds, and then came back another day. I think, and the other problem is, listen, you can change the leadership next year. You can have those conversations with Keir. I don't identify a current serving politician in the Labour Party that I think is the answer, unfortunately.
Not Angela Rayner, perhaps? Ed Miliband?
Angela Rayner's never wanted it. Angela Rayner, as many conversations I've had, she's never really wanted it. I think it's a bit lazy to go, let's elect an accent. I think people are cleverer than that. I think you need to listen to the working classes. Go out into the communities where Darren is, up in Stanley in the North East. Go into the Midlands. What are people feeling? What are their complaints? Why are we telling people what they should want as opposed to, OK, let's try and understand where the working class currently is? And at the minute, we seem to kowtow. We seem to have a lecturing sort of response, and people don't want to hear it. They want change.
Darren, is Nigel Farage Britain's Trump? Is he going to liven things up there? How's he felt down there?
Oh, Harry, I wouldn't say that. I would say Nigel Farage is our generation's Keir Hardie. That's what I would say. I actually think, standing up for the working man...
You're just pouring salt in the wounds now there, Darren.
Standing up for the working man, wanting to nationalise British steel, scrap net zero. He's more on the side of the trade unions than Sir Keir Starmer is, I'll tell you that.
Ellie, Kemi Badenoch, I don't think anyone's comparing her to Donald Trump. What have the Tories got to do to even get back on the pitch? That's the problem. It's a straight fight now between Labour and Reform, and they're barely getting any action.
I think it's actually a really difficult task for Kemi, and she's failing to win.
What if they got rid of her? Could a different Tory leader do it?
Oh, well, they're doing that all the time, aren't they? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Who would replace her? Would it be Robert Jenrick? Who knows? I mean... He might be a little bit more right-wing than Kemi.
But can you out Farage, as one of you said a moment ago? I don't think you can.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can, and Kemi certainly can't.
Oh dear, Darren. Straight fight between Labour and the Tories. You think that you're going to get bedded in now? You're going to go for the parliamentary seat in Durham next?
Well, who knows what the future holds, but I do know that the future does hold a battle between Labour and Reform. I think actually I wouldn't be surprised if the Lib Dems actually end up replacing the Labour Party
as should have got one of those on today, then, shouldn't we?
Yeah, well, I honestly, I can see the whole political landscape changing beyond recognition, Harry, and we will simply not recognise it anymore. But it will be a good thing, I think, for democracy, because ultimately voters have been betrayed by the two-party system and the two-party politics, which has actually promised them the earth and then betrayed them on every single promise that they've ever made.
Is there any Labour politicians that you think could turn it around? Anyone that scares you? Who could take on Nigel Farage? Who do Reform fear?
Look, I like Robert Jenrick a lot on a personal level, but I would argue, though, that he's taken more positions than the Kama Sutra, Harry. Right? He was a Cameroon
I think he's been on a journey, is how he describes it.
He's been on a very big journey, yes, and I think half the parliamentary party wouldn't be with him on any proposed reformista agenda that he wants to take them on.
What about return for Boris? That's been whispered again by pollsters as the only person that could really do Nigel Farage some damage.
Oh, don't make me laugh. I mean, the man that was the face of net zero and the face of mass migration. Honestly, voters up here would give a two-fingered salute. Of that, I've no doubt.
Matthew Talbot, Boris coming back, liven up Keir Starmer a bit?
He's a deeply unpopular politician. I think he's last approval
They're all unpopular, aren't they?
They are, but even Keir and Rachel Reeves are more popular than Boris, which sort of tells you something in this climate. Boris was about -45, 47. He wouldn't worry me.
Well, I think that's not far from where Keir Starmer is now.
Maybe
right
after
now,
this week, maybe. I'm going
back.
back a couple of weeks now. But no, I don't think Boris is someone that would worry me. The constant chatter about Robert Jenrick is interesting, though, because ultimately, what is their Lib Dem strategy? There's 72 seats there that should be in play if the Conservatives were firing on all cylinders. And you may as well wave bye-bye to 72 of those seats if you're going to shift even more rightwards, in my opinion. I actually thought James Cleverly had the correct diagnosis. I don't know if he'd be the right leader, but at Conservative conference...
Unfortunate counting error. One last question, one-word answers. Well, one sentence answer, reply from you all, please. Matthew Talbot, who will be the Prime Minister after the next election?
Be a toss-up in a hung parliament, who knows?
No one? You don't think it's Keir Starmer then?
I don't think Keir Starmer sees the next parliament out, and neither does Kemi Badenoch.
You heard it here first. Ellie Wheatley, who's going to be the next Prime Minister?
Again, it's a difficult one, but I put my money on Nigel.
Darren, I think I know what you're going to say. Darren Grimes.
Absolutely, it'll be Nigel Farage, and the political landscape will be utterly revolutionised as the local elections proved.
And will you be sitting on the green benches next to him next? Will it be Darren Grimes MP? One more go?
Wherever I am, Harry, I'll be sat looking into your eyes, I hope.
Oh, bless you, my dear. All right, that's it. That's what it's time for this week. Darren Grimes, Councillor Darren Grimes, please, to give him his correct title. Matthew Talbot, former Labour advisor. Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley. This was Never Mind the Ballots. See you next time.